After leaving Emoja, the player is given a choice regarding where to go next. Unlike in Wings of Liberty, you can't switch between planets during missions, so once you select a planet you have to do all the missions before you can leave. This was a good change as it allows better mission storytelling and ensures that the player will have specific units when playing a mission. The options are Char, where half the Dominion fleet is located, or Chaldea, where some Protoss colonists are located. While the logical thing to do is to go to the less heavily defended Chaldea, I'm going to select Char just to demonstrate how idiotic it was to allow the player to go to Char this early on in the game. On approach to Char you come across the Leviathan guarded by only a few Zerglings. Here you meet Isha, who Kerrigan instantly mind controls even though Isha was willingly obeying her. Kerrigan can't attack Menks because the swarm's in disarray, so the plot of this game shifts from revenge to uniting the swarm. During the game, Isha acts as the narrator but otherwise has no personality. Effectively, she's a Zerg version of the adjuvant from previous missions. You also meet Abatha, who provides your units with upgrades and is constantly working to improve the swarm. As I plan to focus on Char in this video, I will cover how the Heart of the Swarm upgrade system differs from the Wings of Liberty one in a later video. Char Mission 1 – Domination. In this mission you have to defeat the rogue brood mother Zagara in order to gain control of the Zerg on Char. However, upon starting this mission the plot makes no sense for two reasons. Even though Zerg eggs hatch almost instantaneously, Kerrigan decides to store millions of eggs on Char rather than hatch them in order to use the Zerg to defend Char or invade other planets. However, Kerrigan has no reason to do this. Zagara is trying to gather eggs in order to build an army, even though she already has an army. The army Kerrigan is trying to take from Zagara. The mission is fairly simple, with Kerrigan fighting Zagara, gathering eggs, and fighting infested Terrans who are in this area for an unknown reason. After collecting 100 eggs and putting them in a special pool, they all hatch into banelings. This means that Kerrigan stored millions of Zerglings that were partway through transforming into banelings in the acid marshes. Again, this makes no sense because if they're meant to be a reserve force, Kerrigan should have stored a variety of Zerg units. Kerrigan then uses the banelings to destroy Zagara's army, thus destroying the army she was trying to take control of, along with the army she spent all mission building up. This makes no sense as it goes against everything Kerrigan is trying to accomplish. Kerrigan would have accomplished more if she'd let Zagara get the 100 banelings, as Zagara would have used them against Warfield's army. Finally, Kerrigan orders Zagara to be put to death. Zagara then says that she was only following Kerrigan's orders, and Kerrigan lets her live because Zagara is part of Kerrigan's plan. This doesn't make much sense, since if Kerrigan wanted Zagara alive, she should have given Zagara a chance to explain herself before trying to kill her. For someone who is leading a vast army, Kerrigan exhibits poor forethought. I suspect this mission makes so little sense because this mission had to be easy enough for a player who chose Char as their starting planet, so it had to be possible to complete with only Zerglings and Queens. As a result, Zagara's army could only have the most basic units, even though she's supposed to be leading the remains of Kerrigan's army on Char. This mission would have been better if the player had to build up an army by themselves, then attack Zagara rather than being given an army. During the cutscene, Zagara explains where Warfield's base is located, and that Warfield flooded the tunnels with lava. This is a reference to the Wings of Liberty mission Belly of the Beast, where Reyna destroys the Zerg Nidus worm network using lava. While the callback to the previous mission is good, the consequence of this mission was that the Zerg kept their large air force, so Zagara still should have had access to Mutalusks. Kerrigan says the Zelnaga artifact isn't on Char, which makes some sense because if it was on Char, Warfield would be using it since it destroys all Zerg in a huge area. Zagara is then given an upgrade by Abatha. Though it's meant to make her more intelligent, there's no evidence in game that she's in any way different. Kerrigan then explains that she plans to defeat Warfield to send a message to Menks. This is good as it explains why Kerrigan is fighting Warfield rather than leaving Char and looking for more of the swarm. It also ties Kerrigan's revenge and reuniting the Swarm plots together. Char Mission 2, Fire in the Sky. Zagara mentions how she tried to attack the Terrans, even though she didn't know if they had the Xel'Naga artifact or not, and had no plan regarding how to counter it. Her breed seems to be only a hatchery and some Zerglings, even though she should have access to every Zerg unit. At no point is it explained why Zagara's brood doesn't have access to anything other than basic units. Kerrigan then notices some Scourge nests that are just lying around on the map, and says that if a creep tumor is put near them, they'll reactivate. Even though no other Zerg building works in this way, and there's no guarantee it will destroy the Gorgon. It's also not explained why Zagara didn't use the Scourge nests against the Gorgons, since making the anti-aircraft Scourges would have been the best way to take down giant battleships. For unknown reasons, Kerrigan doesn't want to add Scourges back into the Swarm, even though this would be far easier than trying to put creep tumors next to every Scourge nest on the map. Even after destroying several Gorgons, Warfield does nothing to destroy the remaining Scourge nests, even though his soldiers are standing right next to them. If Warfield was competent, he would stop sending out Gorgons and deal with the Scourge nest with ground troops. It's not until he's down to his last Gorgon that he even tries to destroy the Scourge nests. After destroying all the Gorgons, Warfield decides to retreat, even though he still had a fortified base and several troops on the map. This is another mission that seems to have been toned down because the player may not have had anti-air units other than Queens. This problem could easily have been fixed by giving the player access to Mutalusks during this mission, thus allowing them to fight air units without having to use Scourge nests. After this battle, Zagara gets another upgrade because she still doesn't understand vision. Warfield's base is now surrounded by Overlords and Mutalusks, even though I don't have the latter unit. Either the developers intended the player to get Mutalusks in the previous mission, or they expected the player to get this unit from another planet before coming here. Char Mission 3, Old Soldiers. This mission starts with Kerrigan trying to do as much damage to Warfield's base as she can, before he launches a nuclear strike. Since the player only has Zerglings and Banelings, Warfield mainly attacks with ground units, since the player would not be able to beat a large air force. The Terrans try to evacuate the wounded, though it's not clear where they'll go as their entire base is surrounded by Zerg. Eventually, Warfield launches a nuclear attack outside his base at the Zerg running into his base. For some reason, this removes all the Zerg currently inside his base, even though he didn't launch a nuclear missile at these Zerg. He also damages but doesn't destroy the Zerg base. As aberrations were not available in the last mission, it seems that Zagara only just made them. Aberrations seem like an odd unit to be given since they're made from infested Terrans and there wasn't any mention of Zagara capturing any Terrans in the previous mission. This mission also has a gimmick: random nuclear attacks. Despite being able to launch nukes anywhere on the map, Warfield doesn't launch more nuclear missiles against the Zerg base, but instead focuses his nuke solely on the Zerg inside his base. Out of all the gimmicks, I would say this one is the least awful, since Warfield is using nukes in a sensible way. Had they used another weapon and said that the Zerg base was outside of its range, I wouldn't have had any problems with this mission. After destroying Warfield's base, Kerrigan goes to confront Warfield. The only other thing to say about this mission is that according to the obsolete conversation files, Warfield would attack with lava pumps and the player was encouraged to use Nidus worms to attack Warfield. During the cutscene, Warfield is trying to evacuate his men, though injured, showing he does care for them and gives him some much needed character development. Kerrigan's pet Zergling appears and contributes nothing to this scene. Though the Dominion officer mentions that the shuttles are surrounded and cannot escape, as I don't have any air units that could attack these shuttles, they could easily fly out of reach of my ground units and escape. If the player was given Mutalisks during the Char missions, this dialogue would make more sense. Warfield tries to convince Kerrigan to let the soldiers go because they're too injured to be a threat to her. However, given that Warfield was given a gun arm after his injury, he is effectively negating his own argument. After Kerrigan remains impassive, Warfield points out how terrible Kerrigan is acting and how her revenge is hurting others, However, after mentioning Rayna, Kerrigan kills Warfield. This death might have had more impact if Warfield had a larger role in the story, or if anyone in the story cared about him being killed. Afterwards, Kerrigan lets the wounded soldiers on the shuttle leave. As Kerrigan gives no indication as to why she spared them, it could be due to mercy, or it could be because she wanted to hinder the Dominion by giving them a large number of wounded people to care for. On the Leviathan, Kerrigan reveals that despite Warfield telling her how terrible she's become, she has no intention of changing and is prepared to cause even more harm. So now Kerrigan is effectively a psychopath. Kerrigan claims that she beat Warfield because she had vision rather than using numbers. However, in each mission she used numbers to overwhelm Warfield. This was most noticeable in the third mission, where she kept asking Zagara to send more troops. Also, Warfield did have vision, as his goal was a Zerg-free Char. My guess is that the writers were trying to make Kerrigan sound like a strategic genius, but were unable to create missions where vision would be more important than numbers. Conclusion. Since there was a logical reason for Kerrigan to change her objectives from revenge to uniting the Swarm, this change in the plot was organic rather than contrived. Likewise, Kerrigan's decision to kill Warfield rather than flee Char with her army was well explained. These are both good examples of a character making decisions based on their circumstances, rather than because the plot demands they do something. The Char missions were greatly damaged by the fact that the player could visit Char as their first planet. What should have been a great battle between half the Dominion fleet and the remnants of the Zerg on Char had to contain gimmicks to help the player, so that these missions could be completed by a player armed only with Zerglings and Queens. Of the three missions, the first made Kerrigan look like an idiot for storing millions of banelings in eggs, then using these banelings to destroy the army she wanted to capture. The second made Warfield look like an idiot for not grounding his Gorgons and failing to send ground troops to destroy the Scourge nests. And the third made Warfield look like an idiot for not using his nukes to destroy the Zerg base. All these actions did was undermine the fact that Kerrigan and Warfield are meant to be talented commanders. Throughout these missions, Kerrigan was shown to be completely evil, and the fact that she doesn't even reflect on what she did after so many people died just makes her seem irredeemably evil. If Kerrigan was meant to be the villain, this would make sense, but as we're meant to sympathise with her, her actions make no sense. Had Kerrigan reflected on what she was doing after these missions, it would have made her a more complex character, rather than someone who became completely evil almost immediately. As a character, Warfield was disappointing. In Wings of Liberty, he was an inept commander who Rayna had to keep helping, though towards the end of this game he came to respect Rayna. However, in Heart of the Swarm, none of this matters, and he is killed by Kerrigan, rather than being convinced to join Rayna's raiders and fight against Mengsk. Another disappointing thing was how little anyone cared that he died. In Brood Wars, after Kerrigan killed Duke, Mengsk condemned her for this, and in the final mission attacked her with a fleet because she betrayed him. In Heart of the Swarm, no one condemns Kerrigan for killing Warfield, or tries to avenge his death. And if the characters in a story don't care about an event, then the player won't care about it either. In conclusion, had the Char missions been available after the player had already conquered several planets, and possessed more types of each Zerg, they would have been better because both sides could have used more units, reducing the need to add a gimmick to each battle. The story is also let down by badly written characters who are either unlikable or deemed unimportant by the plot.